Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. In this video, I go through the Squadron 42 monthly report, letting you know all the progress so you don't have to. Before we begin, I would just like to say thank you to my patrons and channel members, including my latest patron, Aaron R. Bradbury. Plus, thank you to Justin Delar for upping their pledge. Thank you guys so much for all the support. All the links are in the description below. So on to the Squadron 42 monthly report, kicking off with combat AI. They have progressed with Vanduul and human behaviours. For the Vanduul specifically, the team authored several animations for melee attacks with the direction based on the location of the target, and added initial support for animation warp, which will enable the Vanduul to procedurally adjust the rotation of the animation. Plus, the first pass of combo attacks was completed, which gives more fluid selection of animation when executing a chain of melee attacks. We actually got to see a work in progress of the Vanduul attacks. Now, this is just testing the Vanduul's AI response. The animations are not fully in, nor are the frame times polished, so do bear that in mind. It is not a final look, just an AI test, but they are looking pretty damn aggressive. Anyway, the first pass on the surrender behaviour was completed. This allows NPCs who are under pressure and without ammunition to decide to surrender. Basically, NPCs will try to find lootable boxes, or in the future request help from friendlies and loot available weapons, and if no options are available, they'll try to survive by staying out of the dangerous environments. I really like how this is sounding and all shaping up. Firstly, having finite ammo is great anyway, as you can hold them up until they run out of ammunition, but once they have run out, running and hiding will be pretty interesting to see. Anyway, the team also began implementing support for character traits, which exposes the ability of selected traits in a character's skill and traits editor. This means designers can then assign traits to templates that are then assigned to characters, which can be used to either modify or enable specific behaviours in characters. So, for example, a coward NPC won't try to put pressure on the player. And finally, for combat AI, several bugs were fixed for visual perception, cover usage, and Vanduul dodge reactions. On to general AI, the team found and fixed several issues relating to characters standing on top of usables, so standing on top of chairs, for example. Code was added to handle this particular edge case, and they have updated some of the recent AI components to avoid this in the future. Let us hope that drastically reduces or eradicates the chair standing bug. The ship AI team begun by expanding the quantum travel subsumption task. This will be used where a behaviour needs to queue quantum travel for a ship and then continue with regular duties, which is particularly useful for multi-crew ships. They've also continued iterating on missile targeting, ensuring that all turrets respond immediately to incoming hostile torpedoes when they're not in combat, plus adjusted target priorities to give a better balance when capital ships are fighting multiple targets, which will also improve how seat operators handle burst fire when controlling ship weapons. We should see this action in 3.12 for the end of the year patch, with this new UEE Idris coming in, so hopefully it'll be all working smoothly by then. Anyway, they also worked on accuracy calculations to simulate NPCs trying to hit a target faster when they are missing, but then relaxing slightly when they're on target. This should actually make AI be a lot more realistic. Like, for example, when a player is firing at a target, they move quite quickly when they realise they're not on target to try and realign it, but then slowing down once they align their shots. So it's quite a nice touch that the AI will behave this way, and it should give us players a chance to engage defensive manoeuvres, which should be interesting. For ship AI, the capital ship combat was improved to allow ranged combat, and NPCs now react to enemy weapons starting to charge. And finally, several bugs were fixed and improvements were made to the breakaway movement request, the patrol around position assignment, and the hostility of specific targets. For social AI, the team moved the first version of the mess hall scenario into a state that allows other teams to better iterate on animations, props, and the technical setup. At the moment, the scenario supports usables that provide cutlery, food, and drinks. NPCs can iterate on food lines, retrieve anything that their sustenance behaviour wants, and then take food to tables and consume it. This actually involves both systemic animations and mocap created for specific scenarios, and the consuming of food will actually impact the NPC's status system, which is something to take into consideration, especially when we are hiring NPCs as our own crew, making sure they have access to things like food and water if you're on a long journey perhaps, will mean that they can keep themselves happy. Anyway, the team are also working on specific behaviours that will benefit both the PU and Squadron 42, including arcade machines and dancing. Playing arcade machines will be one of the available leisure activities, while dancing will likely be a special activity for the patrons of discos and other appropriate areas, maybe like a bar perhaps. It'll be great fun having arcade machines to play while in the verse, maybe on board your ship. Looking forward to that one. The animation team worked on staggering, push and pull, stance transition improvements, a handful of new weapons and improvements to the crouch set, and tasks progressed for the social and life animations, including the chow line, mess hall, bartender drinks, bathrooms, armory character, engineer and exercises. The character art team worked on major campaign characters, and after submitting major changes to Morrow's head, the team updated his jumpsuit, which will serve as the basis for all related Navy uniforms. Morrow is, I think, the chief engineer. He's the guy that we met in the vertical slice. Now, the team revisited Valon, this time focusing on her hair. I think Valon is the comms officer sat on the bridge of the Idris. They say that this quality is now extremely high and will form the basis of a generic hairstyle too. The team is currently updating major assets for a key ship introduction, including bridge officer and deck crew uniforms, engineering outfits, and several heads and hairstyles. I wonder if this introduction is to do with the Morrow tour or when we go on the bridge, like we saw in the vertical slice. It could be that, but up to a much better standard. Anyway, the environment team focused on two key Squadron 42 areas, one being the chop shop and the other one being the Archon station. They also put the finishing touches on the Macedo station as well, which is what we saw in the briefing room. The chop shop apparently contains a mix of hard surface and organic elements, and the team experimented with both scan data and procedural systems to achieve the final result. Don't know what the chop shop relates to, unfortunately, they didn't actually specify. But the Archon station is the largest location that players visit in the game, so the team who worked on the Macedo station have now moved over to form an Archon strike team. Steady progress was made on the Javelin and the Idris interiors, with lighting, material and geometry polish, and the finishing touches were also added to the Javelin's engine room. It's going to be quite impressive seeing that place, if the Idris engine room is anything to go by. And finally, excellent progress was made on the Space Outpost kit, saying that this station asset is unique to the Odin system and will be used to populate space scenes with believable facilities and stations. Very excited to see them ones. The engineering team continued work on force reactions. Characters will respond to sudden effects such as explosions or sustained effects like wind or G-force, as we've heard in the PU. This is being expanded to include staggers, where the force is strong enough to move the player but not enough to knock them down. The team begun implementing FPS radar and scanning, which is quite exciting to hear, accounting for weapon emissions and audio signifiers. It is going to be very cool. Maybe we will see a range of weapons that provide reduced signature emissions, but this is going to be excellent for FPS, where you may be able to detect certain types of weaponry, like energy weapons giving out maybe heat or IR, who knows. Also, further time was dedicated to cooperative locomotion with trolley push and pull polish and better integrating it into the AI pathfinding. This will result in a higher quality visual and provide better animation alignment when entering usables. The graphics team delivered the iridescent shader, which simulates color shift based on the camera angle relative to the surface. I think they're going to use this iridescent shader for the Talon series of ships as well. And finally, the light beam shader underwent significant quality improvements and bug fixes. This helps to simulate distant beams of light beyond the range that can be simulated by the volumetric fog system, and work continued on the Gen 12 renderer and the automated testing system. The level design team moved several FPS sections to a near complete state. The AI and flight gameplay design teams are working on an enhanced path following and hazard awareness behaviors, and continued to spacescape the Odin system alongside the art teams. I'm very excited to see this system. The narrative team requested additional props and environmental set dressing, which included additional story indicators that rewards players who dig a little deeper and explore the game's locations. That is something that I will certainly be doing even more now after they explain that. Just taking a look, or taking my time to look around, see if there's anything I can find. The narrative team also worked to further develop the Vanduul culture, behavior, and their language. The tech animation team heavily worked on upgrading the head assets and the character pipeline. For UI, Squadron 42 specific work was focused on new tech, including a new system to allow animators to move and position UI with cutscenes, and they further iterated on the 3D lighting system to improve the appearance of ships and items on UI screens with holograms. So finally, with visual effects, they continued to improve the destruction pipeline, and they worked on effects for the multi-tool tractor beam attachment. So that is the monthly report there for Squadron 42. Lots of things ongoing, and hopefully we will get another update sometime soon with the briefing room videos. But with that said, my PU monthly report will be out likely tomorrow, so be sure to keep an eye out for that one, and do be sure to hit that subscribe button, as we will be giving away a Star Runner once it goes on sale to celebrate reaching 30,000 subscribers. So big thank you to everyone for getting me there. Be sure to tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified every time my videos go live. And if you can do the channel a big favour and hit that thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you do want to hang out with us over on twitch.tv/supermacbrothers, everybody is more than welcome. The link is in the description below. Big thank you to my patrons and channel members. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.